Hi guys, it's Miss LaCava. I'm going to be doing a lesson today on proportion equations. And by the end of the lesson, you will be able to identify what components you need to make a proportion equation, understand how to set up the equation. So where do the numbers go? How do I label it? What information do I get at the end to make the sentence to answer the question? And you're going to be able to explain the steps to solve a proportion. So let's get started. We're going to have to pull from our prior knowledge on cross multiplication. We did this a few weeks ago. And when we have an equation that's set up like this, we know that we have to multiply the 6 to x, and we have to multiply the 12 and 3. Once we do that, we're going to get an equation that looks like this. 36 equals 6x. We're going to then solve for x. We're going to divide 36 by 6 and divide 6x by 6, and we're going to get x equals 6. So using that prior knowledge, we're going to move on to our proportion equations. So here's an example. If you can buy one can of pineapple chunks for $2, then how many can you buy with $10? So in order to set up the proportion equation for this problem, we want to set up two sides. What do we know and what do we need to know? Set it up with a numerator and denominator space on each side of the equal sign. And on the left, we're going to put what we know, and on the right, we're going to put what do we need to know. So keeping that in mind, what goes where? What we're going to do, or I'm going to encourage you to do when you're working on these in class, is to highlight in one color what we know. So we know we have one can of pineapple for $2. In another color, we're going to highlight what do we need to know. So we need to know how many for $10. So like I said, yellow is what do we know, and green is what we need to know. Okay? So now we need to know what deciding what goes in the numerator and what goes in the denominator. So looking at just the yellow portion of our highlighting, we have if you can buy one can of pineapple chunks for $2. So what do we know? We know that we have cans and dollars. Now we need to decide what goes where. I'm going to circle cans and label it with a T because I want to put that on the top. I'm going to circle dollars and label that with a B because I'm going to put that on the bottom. So based on this information, what are we going to do with the green? Well, it gives us dollars, so we know that also needs to go on the bottom because whatever we put on the top needs to match and whatever we put on the bottom needs to match. So we don't know how many cans, so we're going to put X on the top. Okay? So with this information that we've got over here, what do we know? We have one can, and we said that's going on the top. And we have $2, and we said that's going on the bottom. Okay? So on the other side, we know that we have $10. Right? And dollars go on the bottom, we decided. And we need to know how many cans. So we need to know X cans, right? Okay. So here we have we've decided what goes on the bottom and what goes on the top. So we have our proportion. So what's next? Like I said on the other slide, we've decided what goes on the top, what goes on the bottom. Cans are on the numerator, and the dollars are on the denominator. So what's next? We cross multiply and solve. This is where that prior knowledge of cross multiplication is going to come into play. So we need to multiply $2 by X cans and $10 by 1 can. Okay, so we've cross multiplied. So here are the steps to solve. We have our proportion equation. We cross multiply to get 2x equals 10, because 10 times 1 is 10. 2 times x is 2x. Next, we're going to divide each side by 2 to isolate the x and solve. So x equals 5. But x equals 5 what? If we go back to the previous slide, we have it labeled X cans, right? So on this one, we need to write a sentence to solve our question. And our question was, if I can buy 1 can of pineapple for $2, how many cans can I buy with 10? We need to write a complete full sentence with this information. And so we're going to write, if I can buy 1 can of pineapple with $2, then I can buy 5 cans of pineapple with 10. Okay, so we need to make sure we're labeling correctly and deciding what goes where. So that is how you're going to find information, plug it into a proportion equation, and solve for the proportion equation and write a sentence stating how we solve. So, based on this, I need you to remember how to set up the problem on 2 sides. What I know and what I need to know. What I know on the left, what I need to know on the right. Circle and label what goes on top and what goes on bottom. So after we've highlighted, we need to decide what goes on the top, what goes on the bottom, keeping in mind that if dollars are on the bottom, dollars need to go on the bottom on the other side as well. Then we cross multiply and solve for x. Once that's done, we need to take the information we had and solve it and put it into a complete sentence using the word problem that we had. In this case, pineapples, cans of pineapple, and dollars. So, based on this lesson, I want you guys to complete the assessment I have online. And in that assessment, it'll ask you to solve one question, give a little explanation of how you solved it, and gives a section for you to ask any questions for me for tomorrow's class. Also come prepared with any questions you have at the beginning of class. We'll go over it, and then we're going to be working on a real life situation using proportion equations. I'll see you guys tomorrow.